Man, can you believe, like, I got 2 feet of hair and it's all tied back and that cowlick is still making itself.
Stick it straight up in the middle of your head.
I've had that since I was a kid. It's not going anywhere.
Are we starting?
Yeah, no, we started.
We started.
Yeah.
All right, Justin's hair, but our microphone's way over there.
Oh, no. Maybe we didn't start.
Yeah.
That was such a good intro, too.
Bummer.
Here we are. Had a heck of a week.
It was another busy one.
Yeah.
I had 2 wardrobe malfunctions, which we will get to.
Yeah.
On stage.
For the first time ever.
Both of them for the first time ever. Yeah, but we'll save that for later.
Yeah,
it's a fun story.
We're going to get into it. Hey, stick around. We got lots of good stuff for you.
You might see a boob. I'm just kidding. No, you won't.
No, you won't.
You're listening.
Yeah.
Besides, it did not happening right now.
Yeah, Spotify doesn't have that feature yet.
Here's your beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a busy week. Just starting chronologically.
Yeah.
I had my first ever Diamond Empire Band showcase, which is basically the chance for clients to check out whether they want to hire the band.
And we talked about that last week that was coming up, and you had been preparing.
Super prepared.
Yeah.
And I did just fine. I did quite well, I would actually think, for most of it, except for one thing, which I don't know. I guess you just have a brain fart sometimes. So hit me with your best shot. First verse, I could not remember how it went. Like, I know that song like the back of my hand.
Right.
I could sing the bass line to that song.
Right.
Couldn't remember the verse. I just kind of like fumbled around quietly. I mean, nothing was truly dissonant. It was just like, blah, 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 I'm going to find it. And then we got to the pre-chorus and I was like, oh my gosh.
It's a little bit of a weird verse. You don't expect that,
Well, thanks for your generosity.
1 to a 7/3.
It's a 1-6-5.
Well,
I think.
yeah,
Anyway.
I think of it differently. But,
okay. Anyway, overall it went really well. It was the most fun thing, actually, because, get this. Okay, first of all, I invited Morgan Lowe, who teaches at Performance High and used to be a student of mine, to come because she would like to get into Diamond Empire, and it takes a little while to do that.
Right.
But I just said, just come, show your face, meet some people. The reason it takes a little while is because there are a lot of singers on the roster already. So
Sure.
you kind of have to just wait for people to move away or drop off or whatever until you move up. So she was there, and that was fun to have her there. Of course, Joe Mondragon was there, so another Performance High person was there. The drummer was Drew Heller, who is the boyfriend of someone who took voice lessons from me recently, who it's my 3rd gig with him.
yeah.
And then the biggest surprise, oh my gosh. I got off stage and this girl came up to me, she was like, Adrienne! And I was like, I recognize you so much, but I can't place you. I was like, I know you were my student, but I was like, name. It was like, it's one of 2 names. It's one of 2 names.
Oh, right, that thing, yeah.
And it was El Shaddai, and it has been over 10 years since she was my student.
Wow.
She was 13 back then. Maybe about 10 years. She was 13, took a few months of lessons. I saw so much potential in her. She was so talented, but her family could not really afford many lessons at the time. She said to me that I still gave very generously of my time, and I was really,
that's so nice.
encouraging to her. Well, she went off and got a degree in vocal pop performance at USC.
Whoa.
And now she lives in Denver.
Wow.
And she's good. And she came to the Diamond Empire showcase because she also wants to get into Diamond Empire. And so I introduced her around too. And so, I met some producers and oh my gosh, another small world thing. I was talking to another one of the singers that night, because there's 6 singers.
Yeah.
This guy, and we were just like talking about, stuff like music, life, whatever. And then we sat for a while and he's like, but you have a music school, right? And I was like, yeah, Performance High. And he's like, I took lessons at your school a few years ago. And I was like, no way. With who? And it turns out it was with Joe, who was sitting at the table with us at the time.
Wow.
But the reason he didn't recognize Joe was because right now Joe is playing a part in a musical that requires him to have mutton chops.
We talked about he's doing Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So normally he has a beard and no mutton chops. Right now he has mutton chops. It totally changes his look.
He does look, yeah.
So the student didn't recognize Joe. Turns out the reason that this guy stopped taking lessons was he got a job singing on a cruise ship for about 5 years.
Oh,
and now
right.
he's back. He just got back.
Okay, I remember you saying, yeah.
Anyway, the whole thing was like, it just underscored how, having done this for a long time now, the roots are growing deep. And it's so rewarding.
Yeah, and we were talking about it last night. We went out and got some tacos and a beer, and we were talking about how small the world it keeps getting.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in a good way. And that it's just like, it's not that we're knowing less people. It's just that, like,
we keep running into people that we know from other contexts.
Well, and the threads just keep going further and further out.
It's just the most beautiful thing. You know, when I was younger, after I graduated college and, you know, for a while afterwards, my biggest dream was to just live in each place for 5 years. Like, I'm going to live here for 5 years. And then I'm going to get a different job and move over there and live there for 5 years. Because I wanted to have all the different lives you could live.
Right.
Right. Now, I've been lucky enough to have several different lives. I've been a corporate IT geek, and I've been a near professional athlete, and I've been a musician / entrepreneur. So pretty fun variety of things. But what I realize now is that when you stay in one place like we have now, and you commit to something, and you get yourself embedded in the community, there are rewards that you can't get by just going around and changing your, pulling up roots every 5 years.
Yeah, there really are. And sometimes we've said this before, I've said this before, they come in ways that you could have never predicted.
Yeah.
You just never planned on thinking you'd planted a seed with this person, or that you'd run into him again, or that whatever, it just winds up happening, and you're like, oh my gosh, well, cool.
It's so beautiful to see.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So you also, speaking of playing bass, had a Pamela rehearsal?
Yep, we have Pamela Makala's last gig for a while, because she is very pregnant. Mm. We know a lot of people having babies right now.
Yeah, it's a weird phenomenon.
4 people.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so we had a really enjoyable rehearsal, and we went out to eat afterwards, and
oh, that's right. That's so nice.
Yeah. I mean, not a whole lot to comment on, except that, I know those songs real well now, and so I'm really relaxed playing them, and I'm just looking forward to the show. It's going to be a fun last show.
But that's a pretty good band. That's pretty cool.
I'm surrounded by great musicians.
Yeah.
I feel so fortunate that starting music late, and especially starting bass playing late, that I'm getting to play with amazing people.
Right. Well, you got those fundamentals, man.
So grateful. So fundamentals. Speaking of fundamentals, we taught some fundamentals on Saturday morning. Oh
yeah, that's right. So we had a heck of a Saturday.
Yeah, it was a long one.
We're gonna get into that, but starting Saturday, we had a stage performance class, which we've probably said before, we've done it in a bunch of different ways, and I've done versions of it, and you've done versions, and whatever. And the last thing that we did was more of a weekly thing, like a shorter thing, but it was weekly. And then this time we tried to do a 1-day, 4-hour, kind of more of a seminar. I don't feel like it dug too deep on a lot of things, but it was definitely a ton of info.
Yeah, and it was workshoppy too. I mean, everybody got up and performed and worked on
and everybody got a chance to
skills.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was workshoppy in the sense that there were some some stuff about yourself. So.
You did such a good job of thinking of putting those things in the materials of like, hey, these exercises of like, who do you want to be on stage? What I thought was genius, and I was telling you in the car, when you wrote up the outline for the materials, which a lot of it was just stuff we'd already been working on for the book or whatever, but you put all of the whys, as in, why do you want to perform? What do you want it to seem like?
Why do people go to shows?
Why do people go to shows? What experience do you want people to have? And then we did the fundamentals. So like once you had really we kind of worked for the first half of it on like, who do you want to be on stage? What kind of experience do you want to give people on stage?
Right.
All of those things. Then all the fundamentals make all this other amount of sense because you're like, oh, well, if you're thinking about it from how I want to affect people, not from I have to do things right or...
Right, there's this framework of how people perform correctly on stage.
Right.
It's like, well, depending on what your goal is and who you want to be and what you want to communicate, that will shade this framework in a slightly different way. It's still a framework
Sure.
that works for everybody.
Yeah.
But you can interpret it in your own way and apply the framework differently.
Exactly. And it totally changes when you start from that. And I'm really big on that, and I'm really working on some of that thinking for the book. Like, I think it's something that a lot of, at least newer performers sometimes forget, is the intentionality. Like, that idea of hitting the stage and wanting to accomplish something and knowing what that is. It really affects everything you do. If you start from that baseline, then that just decides for you all these other things.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I loved most about this version of the stage performance class was we taught your song intro formula.
Oh,
like,
right.
This plus this plus this equals good song intro.
Right.
Basically. And so we taught it and we gave some examples of good and bad song intros. And then we had everyone write their own song intro. And they nailed it. It was so pro.
I was I was actually blown away because I felt like we were going to have a lot of feedback and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, that little formula thing. And all three of them just completely nailed it. They were both like powerful song intros. And I was saying, like, having heard that spoken intro to the song would completely change your experience of hearing that singer do that song.
Absolutely.
Which is the point of spoken word song intros.
Right. The point of song intros is not to relay the title of the song you are about to hear.
Yeah.
Or to give some trivia about the cover song you're about to hear.
Right. Or just say some stuff or whatever. But, if you can make the audience's experience of hearing that song deeper and richer with what you just said before the song, that's what you're trying to do. And they all did it. And then one of the students just did a, like, and he had a fun party song. It wasn't there is no emotional.
Yeah, it was Lenny Kravitz.
Fly Away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to fly away.
Yeah.
Fly away.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a deep song.
And even after having given our little talk on how stage talking usually works, he had the great instinct to be like, I'm just going to do like a one-liner.
Yeah.
And work in the title, like,
Come fly away with me.
Come fly away with me.
That was it.
And then it's Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz. Yeah. It's like that's pretty smooth. So I was amazed at how well, and really, even on the performance stuff.
Yes.
People like sort of even on their first try, integrated so much of it and gave great looking and more importantly feeling performances. And then more importantly, which is where I stuttered, when we gave them a little bit of feedback after their first time performing their song, it was like a rocket ship. The very next time was just like, oh, well, yep, you got it. I mean, I guess you got it.
I think this may be the formula for the stage performance class. This was effective. It was really effective.
Really was. I was just so impressed with, and we didn't do the thing that I've tried personally, and we've seen tried in workshops and stuff where you let somebody just wing it with no information, and then you go, now let me point out all the things.
Right, because they give you all the low-hanging fruit, and you're like, oh, no, I can fix that.
Right.
No, right, we didn't do that.
We didn't do that. We did, here's a bunch of basics, like try and handle the mic stand this way, try and do all of these, all of the intention things of like how try to communicate the song. That foundational thing of what a good musical performance is it helps the audience hear and feel the song. And we covered all that stuff first. And then when they got up and performed in the class, it was like, whoa, okay, well, you...
You already got a lot of it.
Well, and one of the students who's a big performance high guy and does a bunch of stuff with us, I know on the break, we took a break, and I overheard him saying, like, man, a lot of this stuff is not that complicated. It's just like, if you don't know it, you don't know it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like a ton of it is if you just hear it, you're like, oh,
of
yeah,
course.
duh.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to, like, study it or, like, you know.
All you need to do is practice it.
All of it takes practice, and you have to, like, internalize it so you're no longer thinking about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're not hard concepts.
Not at all.
You know, it's just kind of like. Anyway, I thought that was, and it was fun too, man. And for being a 4-hour class, it felt really fast. We were just like going like, whew, this is like, we're flying through this.
It was over quickly, yeah.
Yeah, so we jumped in the car right after that, and we drove down to Colorado Springs, to a venue we've played at before with Cody and with Petty Nicks, and we had a gig with Petty Nicks at Stargazers, which is more central Colorado Springs, southern Colorado Springs. And boy, what a show that was.
Now, I'll preface this with saying the show was great.
The show was great. The audience was great.
Dan Buckley on sound was spectacular. So
Dan Buckley is a consummate pro. I mean,
Yes.
he's one of those guys who's like, I've mentioned it before, but there are a few sound guys around town who are like, I've run sound for you guys maybe in different projects, but I've run sound for everyone that's in this band a few times. So I remember roughly what you want out of your monitor, and I'm going to, so sound check was just no bumps, just, super easy.
Sounded great.
Stage sound was great.
Yeah.
The show sold really well. We sold another at least 25% more tickets than we did last time we were there. Maybe more, 30% more.
Yeah, so I think the number was expected to be near 400 by the time it was all said and done.
I think it wound up around 4.
Yeah.
And we'd done like 3 last time, so it was great that we're growing down there. This was only Petty Nick's second time down there.
Yeah, that's some great growth.
That's some great growth.
Yeah.
So,
but
we got into the show. Boy, I don't know. Well, best to start at the beginning. So when Petty Nicks, we have a intro video.
A walk-on video.
A walk-on video. That's a very common thing. And there's some, there's a big video on the screen. And then there's some like music, almost like movie trailer, kind of like swelling, like here it comes.
Yeah, a fill here, and a fill there.
Booch, booch, booch. And like all these snippets of Tom Petty talking and then Stevie Nicks talking and all this stuff. And we walk on during that. But at Stargazers, for the first thing, the owners like to introduce the show and talk about a lot of the new shows that are coming up. And I love John and Cindy, and they're great, but there was some talking.
Yeah.
And then they were like, and here they come.
Petty Nicks Experience. Woo!
And then somehow the audio for our walk-on video was not playing anywhere. There was just no audio.
Yeah, so just like a slideshow.
So it just turned into like just a slideshow with no audio. And then the way Stargazers is, it's kind of a big venue and it's round, right? So it's a big enough stage that half the band's on one side of the stage to walk on and half the band's on the other side of the stage to walk on. Normally, if you have your music, no problem. We all know right when to go on. There was no music. So we're like, half of us...
Are we going to go on?
On my side of the stage, I'm like, no. Let's not even go on.
Right.
Let's wait for them to figure out this problem. They can just restart the video.
Yeah.
But the guys on the other side of the stage went.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh my gosh, we got to go. So we go up there to complete silence. And at this point, the room is dead silent. The audience has
awkward.
no idea what's going on. As we're slowly stumbling on stage, I gave it a little bit of a, wave and try to get like, no, it's really us. We're really here. We're starting the show. And then we were all standing there not knowing whether to go or when to go or whatever.
Oh,
it's so
the
bad.
worst.
It was so bad that a guy at one of the tables right in front of me cleared his throat. Like, imagine 400 people and us in a room, and it is dead silent, and this guy goes,
to fill space.
He's just trying to help. by covering some of the awkward dead space. It wasn't like a serious throat.
It wasn't.
Like he felt so awkward. He couldn't help himself. He had to make some noise. And that was right in front of me. And I was like, oh my God, count the song.
Yeah.
Like, that has not happened to us in quite a while or ever. It was, winning back from that. Stuff does happen in this business, and you got to roll with the punches. I think we did fine. We won him back. Again, we had a great first set. Nothing majorly going wrong, but my guitar was cutting out constantly, which I first thought was electrical interference, because that is a very old building and they do have a lot of electrical interference problems, RF and stuff. And I use a wireless thing.
My in-ears were going in and out the same way. Like
Julian's were...
Every so often I just got like a bzz.
And I thought that was the problem with my guitar, so I was trying to experiment with where I was standing on stage and like, don't go over here and don't go over there. And then I figured out eventually that I think it was like a physical problem, that a cable wasn't fitting tightly enough. But anyway, for most of the first set, and then I had to bail on the wireless and just plug a cord in really quick, and which on top of the way it started was just, boy, I was thrown. We were having a great time, but at the same time, you're just like, one thing after another. And then second set, we start up.
Just fine. Great second set. I came out with my new red dress that I have.
Yeah, which is killer.
Yeah, and I layered another layer under it. So I got this like really nice red dress from this place in the UK that makes dresses for like prom and weddings and stuff.
Right.
It was really affordable. I mean, it sounds like a big deal, but it was super affordable. And then I made it bigger. Like Stevie Nicks on like the Rooms on Fire single cover, she's got this really puffy red dress that just is like this gorgeous like taffeta big thing. And so I was trying to hinting at that. So I not only bought the dress, which is full length, but I also bought a petticoat to put underneath it, like a black petticoat that like puffs it out.
That's what it's called, yeah.
And then when I was changing into the dress at set break, I did it by, I'm like doing it among everybody. And I just like left on my skirt while I put on the dress over it, intending to take the skirt off.
Right.
But then I was like, oh, it's even puffier with my black skirt on underneath it. So I wore a petticoat and my full black skirt, which is like 12 layers of lace.
That would have been hot.
It was warm. It was fine. Underneath that dress. So I was wearing a lot of clothes, and that was kind of fun, and I'll probably still do that. But it did mean one more thing to take off when I had to change for Edge of 17. So Edge of 17 comes, and that's where I get off stage, and I usually have a white lacy top of some sort, like a bralette or this crochet top that I usually have that underneath my clothes so I can take everything off, and that's what's left. And then I switch my skirt to a white skirt and then put on my white cape or shawl.
You have like a big cape.
And then I come on out. So I go, you're starting the song.
Right.
This all happens while the song intro is happening, and you're like jigga 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 jigga.
Yeah, and I'm killing time on the intro.
Yeah. And you're just doing wow and wow while I'm like throwing stuff everywhere. Like I'm just like stepping out of this and like throwing it over there, stepping out of this, and like it is chaos back there on my own. I'm just throwing clothes around. It's hilarious. So I strip down and I get down to my top, which I'm going to show the people who are on YouTube. It's this like crocheted top with these little fringes on it. We got it in Venice Beach or something. Not Venice Beach. We got it in San Diego last summer.
Yeah, San Diego.
So it's perfect 70s-ish top, very Stevie Nicks.
Right.
It turns out that the little ties that go around the back, so it's backless except for a tie. The little ties that go around the back like came untied while I was performing.
Oh, racing around.
At some point,
performing.
I got undressed and this thing was just hanging here in front of me. I was like, oh, I gotta tie the back. And while I was doing that, the straps like got like tied up in each other, and they formed their own little knot. But it was way down near the end.
Way loose, so it wasn't really...
I could neither untie it nor retie it at the proper distance to actually secure the top against my body. So I tried stuffing it into the elastic of the skirt, but it was still just kind of hanging straight down. It was coming right out again. And then like the intro was going on, and the intro's going, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to go out on stage. So I go out on stage knowing that this top is just laying across my top.
It's not tied down.
It is not tied down.
Yeah.
And I'm about to like wave my arms around and flap this shawl and spin.
Yeah.
And so I tried to retie it like under the shawl. I couldn't get to it. I sang the wrong verse for the second verse because I was like, oh my God. Like, what am I going to do when I get to that part of the song?
I thought you did, and then I thought I must have been wrong.
No, I just did it with confidence.
Well,
look, I even fooled you.
There you go.
So fortunately, I don't know, the third chorus or maybe the bridge where I go and face the drums, I was finally able to untie the thing and retie it properly.
Which I didn't even notice.
Oh my God. So then I could actually focus on performing rather than thinking about, I'm about to flash 400 people.
That's so awful.
Oh my gosh. So
That's so bad.
So I get through that. We finish the song. It goes great. Everything's good. And I do a final flourish, which I always do of like kind of bending over a little extra. And my wig falls off.
Which has never...
Never in 8 years has that happened.
Yeah.
I was mortified.
And I almost don't think anybody noticed because you moved really quickly and I was not intentionally moving right in front of you, but you were like right behind me when it happened because I was like, you were headed off, so I was moving back towards center of stage to balance things a little bit. Yeah. And Julian was kind of behind you, so I was like moving back to the middle to just...
So I like as soon as the wig fell off, I just like turned around, grabbed it, and walked off stage. Yeah. I was like, I am mortified. I need to be off the stage right now. Yeah. And I was thinking maybe some people won't have noticed. Maybe they looked away for a moment. Maybe they just like all they see is that I still have light colored hair. Right. Like I do.
Yeah, no, that's yeah.
So I go off to the side of the stage and I'm like trying to put this thing back on. There's dead silence again. Right. Because normally I introduce the next song at that point.
Oh my God. And that was so fun. Okay, now I'm putting two and two together. Yeah, now I remember exactly that sequence.
And Ari was like, Julian, introduce the song. Because I'm like backstage, like trying to like, I have no idea what I look like. The mirror's not right there.
There's no mirror back there.
I'm just like, I'm going to put this on and hope that it looks good, that I don't like have half my hair hanging out of it.
Well, and Julian hadn't seen it happen, so he didn't know.
Oh.
Because he was walking off stage because you usually introduce the next song and then you do half of it by yourself and then he sort of wanders back to do backup vocals on the second half. Yeah. And Ari's like, dude, you need to introduce the song. And Julian just walks right past him and is like, introduce what? And it just like walks right off stage. And we're all standing there like.
And then I'm like, well, time's rushing, so I just like was like, I hope I look good, and I walked back on stage, and
it was man, that was a show for the books. That venue is a weird kryptonite venue for me. I love it, and as I said, I love and if I said I might have mixed up Cindy and Cynthia, but John. The owners there are so great and so supportive and so kind and we love the place, but I have just continued. It's one of those places I've had problems I have nowhere else. Yeah.
Well, I've never had those two particular problems myself.
And
I have performed Edge of 17 at every single show we have ever done.
Yeah, and never skipped it. Yeah. Yeah, and we do kind of the same show.
Oh,
it was, whew.
So that was fun. Yeah. The whole time I was like, well, this is one for the podcast. Yeah. I can't wait to talk about this. Anyway, then we got home safely, and you had to get up early again.
Yeah, and I had to get up early again and go shoot a music video with the band Halves In, which I've talked about. I produced a bunch and then play with, and then we were doing the music video. And gosh, the main thing I realized, and I said it to all of those guys, so it's not like I'm talking behind anybody's back. Like I really realized I, at this point, do not enjoy music videos unless I'm pretty involved in the making of it.
Interesting.
I enjoy doing our music videos because I'm like directing them, and I usually am the one who's like sort of like planned it or storyboarded it, or I guess we've only done a couple, but the more recent ones that we've done I've liked because I'm basically directing them, and that's fun. But just being the guitar player in the band shooting stuff was like, I'm like, I don't care about that. I mean, I love the guys and stuff. It's just like, I don't care to be like seen or.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was almost like, why do I need to be in this video? Like, I don't,
Because you're in the band.
I know. No, I know why. But, it's just kind of, I don't have the same kind of thing. But it was cool for the guys because for a lot of them, they haven't, done a music video before. So, and don't get me wrong, this is all super casual and home produced, which is the way to do things now. Half shot on iPhones, and then we had one, like, good camera, like, fancy camera.
And you did it in a cool place?
We did it in Little Horse in Louisville, which is an incredibly cool used stuff shop. Upstairs, they have a. I think really what it is it's like one store, but they have what looks like 3 or 4 different stores. Oh. So they have like a used books section, and the way the building is, it looks like its own store because they have those, like, it has its own door.
Right.
And then next door to that is a used record shop.
Right.
And then they have like a used, just like furniture-y, decoration shop. And then downstairs they have a used audio shop, which is full of a bunch of old audio gear and hi-fi gear from 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah, all this vintage stuff.
All the old big receivers and the old, back when they had component sound systems where you had an EQ and you had the slidey EQ.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And the room is just full of all these old, and some of it is perfectly functional, and they do repair and stuff. So some of it's perfectly functional, and some of it isn't repaired, but it just looks super cool.
And they've got all that retro furniture down there too.
And then tons of retro furniture.
It's like a cave for audiophiles.
Yeah. So it's, needless to say, a cool place to shoot a music video.
And it was our green room when we played at the Louisville Street Fair, when the Petty Nicks Experience played the Louisville Street Fair last summer. That was
one of the best green rooms.
Super cool.
And the owners of the Little Horse really gave us like similar hospitality. They were thrilled to have us there and very accommodating and didn't have a problem with the noise. And I mean, we weren't like plugged up and making noise, but sometimes the drummer was shooting his stuff. So but they were like very cool. They were like, oh, this is a local thing. And like, yeah, sure. Like you guys, do your thing. And customers were wandering through some. And then we went and did an outdoor shoot, which I should show you the picture. All in all, a great experience. I was super exhausted at that point because we did get home and then it was daylight savings.
Oh, that's right.
Daylight savings so lost an hour and then had to be up there.
Yeah.
And
then I woke you up again early today for a meeting.
Yeah, and then so it's been one thing after another. But one thing I do want to mention and not forget to mention, Eric Golden's first single officially came out everywhere on Thursday.
Yay!
So you can go check out Eric Golden. The song is called "Sit Here and Cry." It's just Eric Golden, just like Golden, and meaning there are no other ones, so you'll find him if you just type that in, and that should be on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. And that is the classic country thing, and that's the first single from that record is out everywhere. So
awesome!
Pretty exciting stuff.
Do you have any takeaways from our week? Any lessons learned or things to remember?
Yeah, I would say, I would probably prepare a little better.
For what?
For any show I do. It's not at all that it's not at all about being lazy musically. It's not at all about being. It's usually a well-oiled machine, but the individual shows, I think from now on, I'm going to be a little more mindful of, I'm going into this show. We've done it a few times. Here are the issues that may have happened. Just being, not that I didn't have a spare cable laid out, so when my wireless went bad, it was right there, but I think being a little more mentally prepared for this might happen, just be ready for it instead of being like, oh no, let me grab the spare thing. Let me figure out what I'm, it's just being a little more like, let me do a mental run through of how this show usually goes and be ready for, you know,
the things that might go
the
wrong.
things that might throw you.
Yeah.
That would be my takeaway, that I was not mentally ready to, as ready as I could have been to roll with the punches for some of the stuff that came up. And I should have just been a little more like, hey, you should know. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But if you're going on stage knowing, hey, maybe I'm going to need to deal with this, and this.
Yeah. Well, I learned that I need to put some bobby pins in my gig bag and attach that wig to my head.
Yeah.
First of all. Okay, but aside from that, I would say, like, it's not so much a takeaway. I mean, but I will point out, I think I did well both acknowledging and not apologizing, which is a thing that you say.
Right.
I acknowledged but did not apologize for the 2 rapid succession wardrobe malfunctions. So I did want to acknowledge that I was a little distracted and that, like, things were a little weird for Edge of 17, at least the first half of it, because I sang the wrong verse and I was, like, not letting my arms up with the shawl because I didn't know what I was going to show people, and I was, like, doing a lot of fidgeting and stuff. And so I let them in on the secret. I was like, I was a little distracted in the first part of that song. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I was worried I was going to flash all of y'all, because here's what happened. Just to kind of, like, lighten the mood and be like, this is what happened. And then I didn't mention the wig at all, because I was like, maybe not every person in the room knows that happened. And so I can kind of have fun with the thing that's less embarrassing to me.
Right.
And which didn't actually happen. And I can deflect from the thing that for real did happen and which mortified me.
And that's a great lesson learned. I mean, you know, it's that classic thing. If you acknowledge something, it instantly lets the air out of it. Because where people's discomfort is, did that really happen? Do they know that awkward thing? Yeah.
Do you know your fly's unzipped?
Exactly. You know, all of those things where if it's acknowledged, then it lets the air out of it, but at the same time
we can all laugh at it.
You don't want to apologize and be like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You know, because that can go the other way. Yeah, I mean, good stuff to learn. It's always going to be new. There's always going to be new stuff. There's always going to be new challenges. And
exactly. That is a takeaway. Yeah. Is that, you know, we've done essentially the same show for many years now.
Right.
And I was hit with 3 new challenges in this show. There was the walk-on thing and then my two things. So, I guess you just always have to be aware that you got to expect the unexpected. Like, I would have never thought any of those things would happen.
Love that place, though. Thrilled to be going back soon-ish.
Yeah, I think we have like 3 shows there this year.
Yeah, so, boy, and busy week, busy one coming up.
Yeah, we've got the first of 2 showcase rehearsals coming up on Saturday.
Yeah.
Do we have a gig this weekend? I have a gig with Pamela, that last gig.
Yeah.
We don't have a gig this weekend.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be mainly showcase and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would like to introduce a new sponsor. We were there last night, Mestizo Brewery.
Yes.
They are on 38th Avenue. It is...
in Wheat Ridge.
In Wheat Ridge, between Wadsworth and Sheridan.
Yeah.
So kind of right in there, there's Clancy's and a couple other places. If you are local to the area, amazing tacos. They're definitely actually brewing the beer in that place, and it was really, really good.
It was great.
And the food, just...
I had a wit beer.
Yeah.
Wit beer. Is it called wheat?
It's wheat beer.
Wheat beer. W-I-T. Wheat beer.
Which is literally wheat beer in German.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they called it the Wheat Ridge.
And we were blown away because
no one's ever done that.
That joke's sitting right there.
I know.
Yeah. So, we were sponsored this week by Mestizo Brewery on
Thank you,
38th.
Mestizo.
Yeah, near
for
Wadsworth.
serving us dinner last night.
Yeah, we had so much fun talking. And as always, we are sponsored by Performance High.
Voice and Music Studio.
And we thank you guys for hanging out once again, and we will see you again next week.
Take care.